Hi everyone, welcome to Module 4. In this module, we're going to be discussing gender in sports. Specifically, we're going to look at how sports have historically served as sites for the celebration of a dominant masculinity. We're going to look at how sports define girls and women, and even individuals who don't fit into the typical binary classification system, as sort of invaders into the sports culture. We're also going to talk about the gender inequalities that still exist in connection with sports participation, specifically things like opportunities for women in coaching and administration, and the lingering elements of Title IX discrimination in school settings across the country. Speaking of Title IX, every semester I have students that say, we've been talking about Title IX for years, we don't need to discuss it anymore, we're very familiar with it. But so last semester, the assignment that was connected with this module was an assessment of Title IX compliance at a university of our students' choosing. I had one student that sent me an email that said, really, it's 2016. I'm not sure why we're doing this assignment because there are no schools in this day and age that are not compliant with Title IX. And I know that this is a thought that is pretty shared amongst our students. But contrary to what you might think, there are actually very few schools that host football programs in the United States that actually are Title IX compliant. So let's back up a little bit, and I just want to touch on Title IX compliance briefly here because we don't go into it very much in the module because I know you guys know all about it. So when you look at Title IX legislation, though, there's actually nothing in the legislation itself that requires schools to spend the same amount of money on male and female teams, nor does it mandate an equal number of male and female athletes. Instead, what Title IX does require is that schools take measures to make male and female participation on sports teams proportional to the overall number of men and women on the student body on the campus. So that's the way that the legislation was written back in 1972, and that's the way that athletic departments wanted it, because at that time, about 56% of bachelor's degrees were earned by men. So you fast forward to the early 2000s when the Department of Education statistics show that those numbers were almost completely reversed. So by the early 2000s, 57% of bachelor's degrees were being earned by women. So at that point then, athletic departments had to enlist more women to account for their growing fraction of the student body at large on many campuses across the country. A Title IX historian, Susan Ware, she calculates that more than 80% of colleges in Division 1A spend a larger proportion of their budgets on football than they do on all of their women's teams combined. So you can see that many schools, those that have football teams certainly, cannot be in Title IX compliance just because of the just vast nature of the football roster and the amount of money that it costs to actually support and promote a football team at the Division I level. So we study issues like gender in sports to really think critically about issues like this. And I think you'll find that the introduction of some other really interesting topics related to gender are introduced in this module. For example, one of the videos that is posted in Module 4 is called Be a Man, and it's by former NFL player Joe Ehrmann. I heard him speak last year, actually, and his message, which is about masculinity and our overemphasis of masculinity in sport, and the way that that message is internalized by young male athletes is a really powerful one. So I hope you enjoy the materials for this module. I think that they will introduce you to maybe some concepts related to gender that you weren't familiar with before. So as always, if you have questions related to the content or the assignments in this module, please post them to the Q&A board or feel free to send me an email. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this issue in a couple of weeks.